Hello and welcome back to Sylvan Emporium, where we're going to be doing a deck tech for Chatterfang. Now, I call this deck Chatterfang and his family of not quite all squirrels that get tossed to the old gods. So sit back, relax, and Sylvan Emporium presents Chatterfang Squirrel General deck tech. So Chatterfang Squirrel General is a Forest Walk 3/3 Squirrel Warrior. So if one or more tokens would be created under your control, create that many 1/1 squirrel creature tokens are created instead as well. So, and then one black, sacrifice X squirrels, target creature gets negative plus X, negative X until end of turn. So, that secondary ability is not one I really use, but every now and then it is good for a little bit of control. So I always start with lands. So just because it's good to get the bad stuff out of the way first. So we start with 9 basic swamps, and then we do 10 basic forests. Now I love the Shadowmoor basic lands, so that's what I go with there. So we've got a Barren Moor for cycling, so 14 non-basic lands, Barren Moor for cycling. Sorry about the glare there. Trinkle Thicket, again, cycling. So we get a little bit of card draw there. And then for our dual lands, cost-effective ones, Land of War Wastes, Jungle Hollow, Woodland Cemetery, Twilight Mire, and Temple of Melody. All right, those are our dual lands for the cost-effective. And then we have our other non-basics, so Command Tower, Yavimaya Cradle at Home, Avando Waking Heaven, or as I like to call it, Gaia's Cradle at Home. And then for those pesky graveyard decks, Bajuka Bog, and of course Swarm Yard, or Reliquary Tower for not having a maximum hand size, and then a Fountain Port for token generation, creating tokens, sacrificing tokens and drawing cards, and creating treasures, leading us to having 33 lands total in our deck. So the first thing we're going to start out with is our token generators. So this deck, we have 16 token generators in it. So we're going to start with Transmutation Font. I have this in there because it creates 2 food tokens. It's just a basic tap to create a food token, clue token, or a blood token. Generally, we're going to use it for creating food tokens. Now, if you have 3 tokens with different names, you can go search for an artifact. It can be convenient, especially with Academy Manufacturer. When you make a clue, food, or treasure, you create one of each. So it's an easy way to go search for any artifact that you may have in your deck. There's not a whole lot in here, but, there is some. Second Harvest lets you create a token for each token you control. Verdant Command gives you squirrels. Well, there seems to be a theme with that. And then, of course, choose another option as well, which you can exile graveyard. Gain 3 life or counter loyalty of a planeswalker, which, pretty much never happens. Quina, again, whenever you create one or more tokens, you create that many tokens plus a green frog token. Again, it's not quite a squirrel. Scurry Oak is part of a infinite combo with Ivy Lane Denizen. So whenever one or more +1/+1 encounters are put onto it, you create a 1/1 green squirrel token. Ivy Lane Denizen is whenever you put a green creature into play, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So it's infinite squirrels. Rootcast's Apprenticeship, you can choose 3. So you can actually create 3 squirrels for 4 mana. Nut Collector, beginning of your upkeep, create a squirrel. And then if you have thresholds, all squirrels get +2/+2. Maskwood Nexus makes all your creatures squirrels, and you can make shapeshifters. Deepwood Hermit, vanishing 3, but you put 4 squirrels when it comes into play, and your squirrels get +1/+1. Sorry. Chitter Spitter, to tap a green to create a squirrel, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, you can sacrifice a token. If you do, put an acorn counter on it, and then squirrels get +1/+1 for each acorn counter on it. Chittering Witch, enters create a number of rat tokens, which is the not quite squirrels, equal to the number of opponents you have, and you sacrifice a creature to give a creature -2, not -2. Chatter of the Squirrel, create a squirrel. Camilla the Seed Miser, Menace. Other squirrels you control have menace, and then whenever you sacrifice one or more foods, create a squirrel. And you can forage to put a +1/+1 counter on each other squirrel you control. Beledros Witherbloom, 4/4. You 4/4 flyer. Beginning of each upkeep, you create a 1/1 pest creature token. When this creature token dies, you gain a life. Pay 10 life, untap all lands you control. Activate only once per turn. And then Avenger of Zendikar. When he enters the battlefield, you create a 0/1 plant creature token for each land you control. And in the landfall, you can put a +1/+1 counter on each plant you control. Those are our 16 token generators in the deck. And of course, with Chatterfang in play, those creature tokens can easily become additional squirrels when you have Chatterfang into play. More squirrels remain. Our next part we're going to talk about is our sack outlets, or the ways that we send our creatures to the old gods. So we have Ravenous Squirrel. So whenever you sacrifice an artifact or a creature, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then you can sacrifice an artifact, creature, gain a life, and draw a card. Viscera Seer, sacrifice a creature, scry 1. Witch's Oven, tap, sacrifice a creature, create a food token. If its toughness was 4 or greater, create 2 food tokens. Umbral Caller Zealot, sacrifice another creature or artifact, surveil 1. For a quick, easy card draw and sack, sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. Costly Plunder, again, sacrifice an artifact or a creature, draw 2 cards. Plumb the Forbidden is additional cast, sacrifice 1 or more creatures. If you do, you copy it for each creature sacrificed this way, draw a card and lose a life. And one of my favorites for it is Yawgmoth Thran Physician, protection from humans, pay a life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on to up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. And of course, tap 2 black, discard a card, and proliferate. So those are our 8 sack outlets. And that is the way we toss our squirrels and not quite so squirrels to our old gods. Now, while we're tossing them into the void, we want to drain our opponents as well. So we have 11 drain pieces in the deck. So we have Zulaport Cutthroat. Whenever the Cutthroat or another creature dies, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Vengeful Blood Witch does the same, except its target opponent. Saurian Voidborn is just like the Vengeful Blood Witch, as well as Falcon Wrath Noble and Blood Artist. Marionette Apprentice, we have Fabricate 1, so when it enters, we can create a servo token, so it gives us another token. And then whenever an artifact or a creature is put in the graveyard, each opponent loses a life. Bastion of Remembrance, we create another token when it comes into play, a human soldier. And then whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Nadir's Nightblade, whenever the token you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Mirkwood Bats, whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses a life. And then Cauldron Familiar, whenever it enters, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life, and you can sacrifice a food to return it from the graveyard to the battlefield. And finally, our Squirrel Buddy, Valley Rock Caller, whenever it attacks, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of other squirrels, bats, lizards, and rats you control. So those are our ways to punish our opponents for our squirrels and drain for our sacrificial ways. So our next bit we're going to talk about is our draw. So we have 8 main draw abilities in this. Beyond, I just categorize these off of their main draw abilities, or sectioned them off in that way. So sometimes they fit, sometimes they don't. Like Peregrine took, whenever 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus an additional food token would be created, but you can sacrifice 3 foods to draw a card. So it's token generation, but it's also sacrifice to draw a card. Morbid Opportunist, whenever 1 or more other creature tokens or creatures die, draw a card, triggers once per turn. Harmonize, draw 3 cards. Toski, can't be countered and indestructible when it attacks each combat. It attacks each combat if able, and whenever a creature you control deals damage to a player, draw a card. The Odd Acorn Gang, Menace, Trample, Reach for a 5/5 Squirrel Warrior. Squirrels you control have tap. Target squirrel gets +2/+2, gains trample in the middle of the turn, and you can only activate it as a sorcery. But whenever one or more squirrels you control deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Skull Clamp is for early game, sacrifice on those creatures to be able to draw 2 cards. Shamanic Revelation is more of a mid-game, so draw a card for each creature you control, then gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. And of course, Moldervine Reclamation, whenever a creature you control dies, you gain a life and draw a card. So those are our 8 card draw cards. But again, we have some token generation in there as well. So our next little bit here is going to be our removal slot. So we have 8 bits of removal for the most part. So we have Tear Asunder, so we can exile target artifact or enchantment, or if we can get it, we can exile target non-land permanent. Saw in Half is actually a bit of removal for ourselves, mainly for our Academy Manufacturer to be able to double up on it. But it also can be good for any of our drain abilities or our sack outlets if somebody's trying to path or destroy one of our key pieces. Putrefy, just a cost-effective destroy target artifact or creature. Crossing Grip for that split second, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Haywire Might to be able to exile target artifact or non-creature enchantment, non-creature artifact, non-creature enchantment. Go for the Throat to destroy target non-artifact creature. Assassin's Trophy to destroy target permanent opponent controls, and its controller may search their library for a non-base or for a basic land and put it into play under the battlefield, then shuffle. And then, of course, our mass removal is Swarm Yard Massacre. We create 2 green squirrel tokens, and then for each creature that is an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel gets -1/-1 until the end of the turn. For each creature you control that is an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel. So those are our 8 pieces of removal. We're going to go on to our ramp next. We have 10 pieces of ramp. Again, this is loosely ramp. It is ramp, but it is also token generation as well. So we have Tireless Provisioner. So it is create a food or a treasure. We'll create treasure if we need mana early on, but we'll create food the other way. 3 visits to be able to go search for a forest and put it into play. Soul Ring, obviously. Prosperous Innkeeper creates a treasure token, and then whenever another creature enters the battlefield that you control, you gain a life. Pitiless Plunderer, for whenever another creature you control dies, you create a treasure. Insidious Roots, creature tokens you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color. We don't use the bottom ability. We have no recursion in our deck. So I'm not even going to go over it, sorry. Hazel of the Root Bloom. Tap, pay 2 life, tap X untap tokens you control, add X mana of any combination of colors. And then at the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. A token is a squirrel. Instead, create 2 tokens of the copies of it. So, it's again, token generation or mana ramp. Enduring Vitality, so creatures you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color. Just a Dark Ritual to add 3 black mana, early game or late game just to boost up. And then I love Bloodroot Apothecary, Toxic 2. Whenever it enters you and target opponent, create a treasure token. And then whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-creature token, they get 2 poison counters. It's really nice for people who like to use treasure or any non-token or non-creature tokens. They'll get 2 poison counters. So the next bit that we do here, we're rounding up to the end, is our finishers. So we have Bloodchief or Beastmaster's Ascension. Sorry. So whenever a creature you control attacks, you put a counter on it, and as long as there are 7 or more quest counters on it, creatures you control get +5/+5. Overrun. So creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until the turn. And of course, Craterhoof Behemoth. So haste. When this creature enters, creatures you control gain trample and +X/+X until in the turn. Where actually this is the number of creatures you control. So if we wanted to go wide, and if our draining isn't working, or our sack outlets aren't working, that's a way to go. And then for our other category, I did put in the Ivy Lane Denizen that I talked about earlier. And just because, if you notice, we have no flyers in the deck at all, I did put in Gravity Well. So Gravity Well is a nice card for whenever a creature with flying attacks, it loses flying until end of turn. I think it's a really underplayed card that from I think it's Rise of the Eldrazi from way back in the day. It works for everybody. So flying basically becomes null and void with this in play. So that's our deck. So for wrap up on this, I'm not sure if you saw or not, but we have 0 game changers in this. However, this deck is a bracket 4 deck. And the reason for this is this deck actually has 2+ infinite combo lines. So, I mean, we've got Pitiless Plunderer with Academy Manufacturer and Cauldron Familiar with a sack outlet is infinite mana, infinite enter the battlefield, infinite drain, infinite gain. Chatterfang with Academy Manufacturer and a drain outlet and a sack outlet again. Ivy Lane Denizen with Scurry Oak is infinite creatures with a drain outlet is infinite drain with the sack outlet. So I mean, there's some infinite combo lines in this, which really is what makes it a bracket 4. So that's it. That's my Chatterfang. I know it can be a lot more optimized. Again, my decks are a little bit more of a casual base, even though I have infinite combos. But I don't really streamline or make the best. But I mean, again, if you have some ideas or comments, please definitely comment. Let me know. Give me some ideas. I'd love to hear them. Also, give me a like, follow, subscribe. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Facebook is Sylvan Emporium. YouTube is Sylvan Emporium. Instagram is Sylvan_Emporium. And in TikTok, of course, is going to be Sylvan.Emporium. So we're on all of those. So, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscribe. We really appreciate it. We hope you're enjoying these deck techs. We're going to start doing these maybe every 2 to 3 weeks as opposed to every week. So don't get used to us doing them every week. But, and we're going to start cracking down on 1 pack a day coming up. And as opposed to doing the dual packs. But that's where we're headed. So really appreciate the support. And I'll see y'all next time. And y'all have a great day. Thanks. Bye.